All right, next one. So here's an issue. This is an image that we often see regarding evolution, right? Who's on the far right? White dudes. Yeah, of course. White people. Who made the image? White people. Because it's like white people, this is when black and brown people often talk about white people just really not getting it. You're not thinking about it. You're just not engaged with the issues. This would be the kind of thing that we're talking about. Like, why is it a white guy? Well, here it is. Maybe there's this subconscious thing that white people have that we really are the most evolved. Some people, it's really conscious, like the all right folks. Other people, maybe it's kind of somewhere in our consciousness, maybe not in the forefront, but back a little bit. But the idea is this is the image that's most often presented for evolution. And this is not very old. I didn't reach back into the mid-1900s to find this. This is a fairly recent image. So what's it mean? It means like as you're thinking about evolution and human beings evolved from primates with this image, it's like we start when we get to Neanderthals and then Homo sapiens and we're standing upright and then we pass through kind of a black guy, right? Because that guy's really not very different here, but he's a black guy. But notice they don't really put an afro on him. This guy looks like he more has an afro, so you kind of have to mask it a little bit, but essentially that's kind of a black guy. And even though the skin color is essentially the same, but it's like, you really see it. And then you get up here to the white guy, the most evolved. It's no wonder so many black people don't accept evolution, because if you believe that evolution is an image like this, why would I believe a system that has white people as being the most evolved? Asians aren't even on here. It doesn't really matter. This is all Eurocentric. So even, next slide, when we're even playing around with it, here's a joke, right? It's still a white guy. It's just, there it is. And so what I want to do, let me show you something about this because I think it really matters. I need volunteers. Here's the deal. What we have is this idea that evolution happens. It's a long process. So imagine this chain back here, right? That it's back here. We're at primates and we're going to Neanderthals and we're Homo sapiens and so on. And then we get to here somewhere. And then something happens. Someone's got to be out front. But what happened, evolutionarily speaking, is that human beings, Homo sapiens, all evolved around the world. Essentially, the essential core components all happened at the same time. So when you see that picture, this is what you should see. Right here, when we see these differences, we have the Asiatic. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Kristen.
Kristen. And what's your name?
Skylar.
Skylar? Perfect white name. All right. Seriously. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, my brother's name is Justice.
Justice? Dude, are your parents lawyers or something? Or
no.
Just hip pot smokers? You can say it. Probably. They are. No, they are. Trust me, right? They were when they named you, for sure. And what's your name?
Brittany.
Brittany? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what was it again? Kristen, Skylar, Brittany. Okay, so here, when you think about this vision and you think evolution, think this right here. Like we're all in a row. It's just all happening. There's no differences. And this is what I'm going to talk about. This is what these alt-right people don't see. They don't understand anthropology, and nor do most human beings on the planet. They don't get it. They see that and they think that Skylar is out front. You're somewhere behind here. Here, stand right here. And you stand here. And that you're back here. This is what they see. And who's going to be back furthest? Well, the black person, of course. This is how evolution is portrayed. Not you, of course. You would be up here. But Skylar, your brother would be out in front because he's Justice. And so that would only be just. Anyway, so this is how we think about it, but it's not that. It's the side by side thing. And I don't have time to go into it here, but you got to understand anthropology, evolution, DNA, ancestry. It's really not that difficult, but we're going to be talking about it more as the class goes on, and I'm going to continue to talk about it today. Okay? Are we good on that? So these folks don't get it. They see it like this. And then they say, look, white culture is out front. We're the most evolved. White people are the most evolved. And these people, when they start mixing genes with Skylar, what are they doing? They're not bringing themselves up. They're actually bringing her down. They are bringing them up because they're getting her good genes because she's got the best genes because she's white. She's most evolved. She's the smartest, the strongest, the most clever, the most moral, the most ethical, all these things. So she's got the best possible genetic stock. So they're getting some of her genes, but also they're weakening her. They're bringing her down. So all the white people get taken down. So these folks are saying like, hey, we need our own space. Because if we don't get our own space, like our own ethno-state or something like that, we're going to just fall apart and humanity is going to get hurt in the process. Is that cool? You got that? Evolution it's a trickster. Okay? It's a trickster. Because see how different they are? Think about DNA. Think about our genes, our genetic admixture. Those, you've all studied it at some level, right? Our genetic admixture, right? And think about the differences between them. But here's the problem. They're 99.9% the same. And a very small number of their genes, a very small number, are responsible for their external features. So when I look at them, I think, wow, you're all really different. And I think, genetically speaking, you're so different. Well, why wouldn't it be true that one then group of people with that tends to have these genes, and I'm not even talking about all the mixture, right? So we'll get to that in a minute. But the people who tend to have genes that create people that look like Skylar, or people that look like Brittany. It's Brittany, right?
It's Kristen.
Kristen, all right. Oh, you're Brittany, all right. And Kristen, or people that look like Brittany, why wouldn't it also be true that these people are smarter than, or more moral than, or more clever than, or less clever, or less smart, or whatever the case is, right? Because life itself is a trickster. Very few genes are responsible for the external features, but they're enough to really shift what has happened. And what has shifted in people, their differences, is really relatively recent. So we don't have enough time to make essential core differences between people, right? So we're gonna talk about this in lots of ways and how and why we have these physical differences. But dude, we're 99.9% the same. So to make a proclamation that people that look like Skylar and I are smarter or better or whatever the case is, to make that proclamation, to say there's something unique about us, here, stand over here, that something happened in between us and them that separated us, to make that proclamation shows that you don't know anything about how DNA processes have adapted, how people have adapted over time in different ancestry groups and geographical regions. Because the truth is, human beings all evolved together into our central core consciousness and features of who we are, right? Essential. And then we started to break off to add these little slight features so that some people in her region have tighter curls in their hair, or kinks in their hair. And so Kristen would end up with eyes like she has. And look at Brittany's eyes and Kristen's eyes. Can you get a close-up on that? Put your heads close together. They're not that different. They're not that different, right? But they're very different than Skylar's eyes. So look at Skylar's eyes and Brittany's eyes. They're very different. And so, okay, well, those happened, but that happened recently, y'all. They're essentially the same. They are the same. It's just that you look at them and you think, wow, they're really different. And they're not. They're different sociologically, but biologically they're not. And that's where the alt-right misses it. So when you come up with an ideology based on racism, based on the idea that one group is better, smarter, more ethical, et cetera, than another group, you're missing what science is very, very clear to tell us. And when you continue to make that argument, you are not studying science. And this is not a class on the science of human evolution, so I'm not going into it. But what I will tell you is, it is something that if you don't understand it, you have to go study it. I'm just giving you the basic idea. I could never do that. Okay, you get it, right? The trickster.